It is January 10th in the year 2020. This is SmackDown coverage on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Glenn Rubenstein, joined by Matt Morgan, who's doing his vocal warm-ups here as we're getting started, and Michael Wiseman here to talk about the second SmackDown of 2020. John Morrison's back tonight. Robert Roode came back tonight. We had some more forward movement in some of the feuds and the storylines as we progress towards the Royal Rumble. Matt, how did you feel about tonight's SmackDown?
Did I miss something with Robert Roode on SmackDown?
He just showed up at the end, beat up Roman with everyone else.
Yeah. Anyways, I was happy to see John Morrison. So for that carried a lot of weight on the show for me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. It's good that he's back. Really, I think that dominated the first or good portion of the show. So we opened up with the Miz TV with John Morrison being the guest tonight. And this was interesting. I mean, Morrison even saying, could have waited to return at the Royal Rumble, but he decided it was more important to be there for the Miz. So Morrison clearly in heel mode here, bringing the Miz with him, setting up a feud with the New Day. So now we have the Miz in a rematch versus Kofi Kingston. It's going to be Morrison versus Biggie next week. I'm assuming Morrison and the Miz have to win the SmackDown titles at the Royal Rumble in 2 weeks.
They can do some serious magic with those titles. Seriously.
Yeah. I dug it. It was interesting seeing him back tonight.
It was really good. Really good stuff.
I think I appreciate that they took some time to tell the story. They addressed the small things, which they don't always do. Why did the Morrison come back, or why did John Morrison come back on his random Friday night instead of the Royal Rumble? Well, he talked about that. The Miz last week, I said, he seems like he's a little conflicted. He beat up Kofi, but he's not full on bad guy. How are they going to treat this? They address that, and you don't always see them address the nuances of the characters, and it gives the characters more depth.
Yeah. What do you make, though? I pointed this out. Oh,
bye,
Matt Morgan.
We'll miss
Matt
you.
Morgan, disgusted, leaving. So before Matt comes back, because he's gonna, let's predict Matt's reaction to this. I think he's gonna be outraged and indignant when I run this by him. But I tweeted, and some people I was watching with some people that don't have as much history with the WWE tonight, and they said Morrison looks like a Dolph Ziggler impersonator tonight. I think their looks, they didn't always look the same, but where Ziggler's look has gone in recent months, I thought someone at Fox should issue a memo and be like, hey, Dolph can't have a similar look to this if we want to establish this guy and reestablish him with the audience with a distinct personality.
I mean, I don't know that I entirely agree with that. If you don't know John Morrison at all, maybe you're like, and you're not familiar with Ziggler, because again, I think Ziggler's big heyday was 5 years ago and John Morrison's around the same time. I could see how you might feel like they do look too similar. But I also think that's kind of like saying all skinny dudes with bald hair look the same. Like, they have enough differences to them that I don't think it's a big deal. But yeah, I mean, you do got to make these characters unique, and you got to sell John Morrison as being something different here. And I think that's WWE's challenge, is how do you treat him as though he is going to be something unique and not just another dude with sandy blonde hair who's tan and has great abs, right?
Well, and his shtick. He was out there doing kind of a similar thing to how Dolph has been doing, with Ziggler as a heel, dissing the fans. I don't know. I see the comparison. Benny Alini is saying Morrison looks like Hangman Page. I wonder if that was the big idea. If someone in Fox was like, they got the Hangman Adam Page over on the AE dubs on the TNT. We should get someone that looks like him, and it's like a Goldberg Stone Cold situation.
This is like the booking coming straight from the Fox robot. They keep him around to make all the how do we add creativity to these shows here? Yeah. He does have a look that I can see why he might be similar. I think that the key to me is, how do you use him moving forward? I really liked the part where he kind of turned on the fans in the middle of the promo, because at first I was like, this dude just doesn't have, he felt very disengaged. And I was like, is he not working well with the script or what's happening? But then it clicked whenever all of a sudden he was like, oh, you fans telling the Miz he sucks and he's worked that hard. So I think if they can lay that on really thick and they can make him seem really indignant, I think they can make it work, especially if he's sticking up for his buddy, the Miz.
And Matt Morgan's back.
Hang on, dude. Morrison body is more ripped than Adam Page. Why is that even the comparison? There is nobody that compares to John Morrison.
Well, with Morrison, that's one thing. So I tweeted about this, Matt. And I can't wait to get your reaction.
Is ripped.
Saying that Morrison looked almost like a Ziggler impersonator out there tonight, given how Ziggler has looked lately and talked lately. And someone in the chat said he actually looked more like Adam Page.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that John Morrison has no equal in that department.
I agree. It is funny, though. I was saying that Ziggler's look just veered in this direction recently. If they knew they were bringing Morrison back, someone should have sent a memo to Ziggler. It's like, hey, touch up the blonde in your hair a little bit, maybe change up your look a little. Let's have more distinct personalities. Was that ever a thing, Matt, when you were there? Did they ever talk about like guys couldn't look too similar on the roster or have too much in common? Because a casual viewer will get confused.
Yes, but then ironically, though, when I was in OVW, we would all get, buried for all looking the same coming out of OVW. Oh, what's in the water in OVW? Meaning everyone was all jacked up. And it's like, that's not a look, being all jacked up. We have different faces, different hair, different characters. You know what I mean? It doesn't make you all look the same. Like, I didn't look like John Heidenreich. I didn't look like Horseshoe, or not Horseshoe. What was his name? Luther Reigns.
Yeah.
I didn't look. Their similarities are muscle, but that's a stupid thing to say. That somebody's cornered the market in muscle. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Well, especially because like WWE wants you to look ripped and muscular, right? Am I mistaken?
There's no question they did. Yeah, that's how you got on TV faster. No question.
Brett Baldus with a super chat donation of $5. Thank you, Brett, saying he wants Matt's reaction to how jacked Robert Roode looked tonight. He looked like money.
Bobby Roode, day in and day out, and he's a bump and feeding machine. He's a worker's worker. Usually when you're a worker's worker, it's much harder to maintain your physique because you're wrestling with injuries, because you work so much and work so hard, and you're getting guys over, and you're bumping and feeding, which, again, takes more out of you and leads you quicker to injury more times than not. So it's crazy that Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode as well, especially Bobby Roode, are able to maintain their physiques. But if you notice, Zolf's goes a little bit on him after a while, where Bobby's is always spot on. He always got that vascularity right around here, and his vein popping out of his shoulder and his left bicep generally. Bobby's smart. Watch Bobby when he goes into rest holds. Watch which rest holds he generally goes to. He goes to the rest holds in which he can flex, and right for the hard camera. And it's genius. It's smart. And he looks like $1 million. Bobby looked great tonight.
Well, and we've talked about this before, Matt, is that there is a big difference in terms of discipline, workout regimen, just real 24-hour dedication to go from being, quote unquote, in shape, even for a professional wrestler, to being like Jinder Mahal ripped, you're vascular, just taking it to that extra step. And most, as we've talked about before, most are not willing to go that extra mile because it is really a complete, it rules your lifestyle at that point. You've certainly competed in competitions. And when you go for that extra mile, how much extra work do you think it is? Is it twice as much work to get that extra 10%?
For me, it'd be my whole life.
Yeah.
Literally, it's every meal. It's 6 meals a day, every 3 hours, every 2.5 hours, every 3 hours. You're eating, I'll tell you exactly, tilapia, exactly 9 ounces of tilapia and 300 grams measured on a scale of jasmine rice 5 times a day. And then I'd have breakfast, which would be egg whites galore. They all do the same thing.
And no cheat days when you're going for 100%.
No.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the shot of Kumail Nanjiani from Silicon Valley, from the Big Sick, who's going to be in Marvel's Eternals coming up?
I can't say I did.
Yeah, and he's got that. He used to be. He's been on Silicon Valley. He's got kind of that normal average Joe body, and he has been ripped for this new Marvel movie. And he said exactly that, which is like he had to have a trainer. He had to be eating egg whites. He had to have his diet strictly planned out. He said he could never have done it had his whole life not been dedicated to fitness.
It is your eating. I'll put it in perspective. There's times even where you're at work, you still have no choice. You better get into that bathroom, use that bathroom stall. Go in there, take a shake in there if that's what it takes. And it's 3 hours. Your 3-hour window is closing, and it's time to eat again. But you can't eat your normal Tupperware because you're in the middle of something important. You better get in that bathroom, be excused to use the bathroom, shake up your shake, down it real quick, come back out of the bathroom, get back to that meeting so you don't miss any time. It's that serious if you're going to do it the right way. You cannot miss that 3-hour window.
Well, and let's put over professional wrestlers even more. Kumail and actors Hugh Jackman, these guys are able to do this from the set, from their trailer in one place. Now imagine you're traveling and you're having to eat on the road.
That is why wrestlers are the best, in my opinion, the best all around, not just all around athletes. I also say acting as well, because you're doing it while you're screwed up. You're injured. There's not one wrestler on that roster that's not injured in some form or fashion, that has a sore back, knee, leg, shoulder, whatever have you. And then you're pushing it in the gym on top of it while you're banged up. It's so damn difficult.
Yeah.
It's harder than anything else out there, I would argue.
No, I can't imagine doing that with traveling. I think, even Diamond Dallas Page talks about that with his strict regimen in DDPY, that when he travels, he finds himself it a challenge to eat at the level he wants to eat at, and his schedule is nowhere near what WWE Superstars is at the moment. So back to the show tonight, we had Kofi Kingston versus The Miz, a rematch from last week. Now tonight, The Miz picked up a win with Morrison running in and helping him pick that up tonight. Yeah, I like Morrison's involvement. I like that they're setting up with the tag teams. But Matt, to be fair, is this them doing something we're very critical of them doing week in and week out? So now The Miz and Kofi have traded wins. Next week it's going to be Morrison and Big E, and it's got to be leading towards Miz and Morrison versus the New Day at the pay-per-view.
It does, but because we'll let them get away with it because of the newness of Morrison, like we're not looking at it that way. We're looking at it still with excitement of what will happen. What's it going to look like when those two capture the tag team championships again? Question from Brett Baldes, who donated $15. Thank you very much, Brett. He asks, how long before Miz turns on Morrison, or do they win the belts from New Day and go on a tag run like the old days? They go on a tag run like the old days. That's what I'm predicting.
At least till Mania.
I was going to say Mania is probably where they lose it, right? Like you break them up, you start I still think there's potential they break up before Mania. I think these two guys could fight at Mania.
The matchup is between the two of them for Mania, but I would argue, you know what? That's a good call then. They would have to break up like right now then to build to Mania. Do they have time to wrestle against each other for Mania?
They announced Kurt Angle versus, they've been building for a while. They announced Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin 2 weeks out. WWE could do this either way. They can carry out a feud for 3 months that people aren't interested in, like Bobby Lashley and Rusev, or they can pull the trigger and go with someplace pretty shortly.
Now, Mike Prescott saying they wasted the Morrison return could have been so much better. I almost wonder with The Miz and where he's at right now, and with the New Day and where he's at, I don't know. I don't know if it would have been a better pop to have Morrison come back in the Rumble, but SmackDown is a weird show right now, and really the majority of the weakness, I think, and I hate to say this, lies in what we saw in the main event. I'm tired of Roman and Baron Corbin. Actually, I'm not tired of Roman and Baron Corbin. I'm tired of Roman, Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, The Revival. Just all these guys lumped in. How many weeks? How many weeks in a row have we had some variation on this? But tonight Roman had backup from the Usos, which is great. But is this really even a storyline at this point?
It's everybody against Roman Reigns.
Kind of, or everybody against Roman and his family. I don't know. We'll talk about it more, but I feel like SmackDown, I don't know. The Firefly Funhouse stuff is good. So we had another Firefly Funhouse segment tonight, and this was interesting where he was calling out Daniel Bryan in the build-up to their match at the Royal Rumble, really leaning heavily on their history together, even more so than he has in the past, right?
Yes. I like this. I like this a lot. I gave credit to Morrison as far as what carried me as a viewer through this show as far as grading it goes. If you were to ask me a letter grade, I would give it a full letter grade above what I normally would because of Morrison, is what I'm saying. But with that said, this Firefly Funhouse was awesome. Awesome. I love when they give nods to not even a tip of the cap, because that usually shows some sort of what's the word? Being inconspicuous, and that's not what they're doing here. They're fully on acknowledging the history, which I love. Do you want to say that one?
Yes, Myron Cyron with Super Chat. I think that's Australian currency is donating in, asking why doesn't Bray have Braun's photo on his wall? The Fiend attacked him last year just like he did Lawler and Foley. Thanks for everything, guys. Respect. I think they're not seeing that as Bray having gone over Braun, because there's so much money in that match when it finally does happen legitimately.
Or that there's an opening there for something that we just don't know about yet.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like the problem right now with SmackDown, and I agree with Matt, the history here, bringing it back up, they even said 6 years. They don't do that enough in WWE, so I'm glad to see it. But on the flip side of this, Firefly Funhouse, the Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt feud, I think somebody mentioned the way SmackDown ends every week with it being Rusev or it being Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns and the run-ins. All this just is starting to feel very routine and very scripted, as in we're taking the same playbook and running it week in and week out. And as a viewer, it becomes a little bit monotonous. And again, I think Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt are doing good work, but Firefly Funhouse used to be revered because it was something unique and novel.
The original
and now it is
every week.
But how long could you be original every week? Like, come on, guys. You gotta eventually, no matter what something is, no matter what that entity is, I don't care what it is, eventually it has its, and I don't want to say half-life or shelf life, because then that is me nodding to the fact that Bray Wyatt's not as over anymore or whatever. And I don't want to say that or poo-poo upon his vignette, his backstage promos and stuff like Firefly Funhouse. I still think it's the best thing on the damn show.
I mean, but these are 60-second segments. Bray's not wrestling on TV each week. Why not have him mock more with Daniel? Why not have him do a PSA about, judging people by their size and use Daniel as an inspirational story? Why not do a segment where he's got a character that's talking about recycling and composting, since Daniel's so big in the environment? I think that the more Bray does to make these unique, that's what we tune in for, and that's what people share on social media. Tonight, the thing with Rambling Rabbit, and we'll talk about that, like, it wasn't bad, but the reason I'm extra hard on it, Matt, is because I really want this to succeed. I really want Bray to do well. And as a fan, I'm selfish in that I want that fresh, innovative, entertaining content each week, because, man, that was a big part of the reason why, those were huge high points of WWE programming this year. I don't want to feel like that's gone. And Bray, I'm sure Bray's got a ton of ideas. You can't tell me he's creatively tapped out.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
I mean, I go back to like the greatest feuds in WWE history. I mean, even it's played out, but Austin and McMahon, and it wasn't just the fact that it was Austin and McMahon staring each other down each week. They did unique things with it. They had Austin kidnap McMahon one week, or Austin drove a beer truck down one week. And while that central feud was still there, and I know you can't go back and recreate that because it's been played out, the fact that every week they were saying, how can we do something different, better, challenge ourselves, kept that feud alive for as long as it did.
And let's talk about this right now, this super chat that we just got. So Brett Baldus, again, dude, chat room's on fire tonight, especially for a SmackDown. This is great. Brett Baldus saying, I think Rambling Rabbit was going to tell Bryan that the Fiend's weakness is the red lights. Funhouse was better tonight. So they've... He's
right, it was.
Tonight, they teased the idea, Rambling Rabbit, in a special message to Daniel Bryan, that the Fiend does have a weakness. Now we didn't hear it. Bray silenced him and then later left a partially
that was good.
Bottomized. That I liked.
Funny. That was good.
It was the theme of the night. You guys have seen Seven, right?
Yes.
The entire theme of the night was Seven. What's in the box, right? We had a box that was Mandy Rose had a box. Daniel Bryan got a box. What's in the box? Yeah, or the SNL skit. It was my dick in a box.
Yes. Anyhow, I think that they're not a sponsor tonight, so I'm not even going there. Okay, so with all that though, Matt, because we're all protective of Bray. This is like our discovering thing, right? Like Bray, hey guys, Bray's really cool now. Like before, say what you will, but now he's on an upswing. I don't want there to be a weakness revealed yet. I don't even want to tease it, because when they start teasing that, we're that much closer to them revealing it and that much closer to him losing the title.
Okay. First and foremost, I told you all this. This is why I did not want him to win the title.
Yeah.
Because then everybody's got to have, all those cooks in the kitchen got to come on out and add their god dang ingredients instead of minding their business and letting this mastermind continue to paint his artwork, right? His masterpieces he was painting. It feels to me, and you hit on it a little bit earlier, that you just want Bray to continue to have his creativity. It's not like he can be just shut off of creativity now. I guarantee you he's not. But it's them, i.e. every creative team member and their aunt and uncle and neighbor getting into the picture now because he's the champion and having their say. Seriously, that's what happens.
I wish LeBar was here because LeBar could do the Vince impersonation,
Dude,
but it's like, but the feet, he's got a weakness.
He's got a weakness.
He's been commercialized. He's now commercialized to a degree, as far not maybe in the wrestling world, but as far as backstage goes. You guys need to understand that. Now he's a champion. He's now commercialized to them, which means now everyone wants a part of it. Everyone wants to have a say in what he's doing, and it's going to screw it up. Instead of just letting him do what he does. It's what got him to the dance. That's where this company goes wrong. They see how they get somewhere. Again, I use that phrase, getting to the dance. Whatever got a talent to the dance, they see what it is, and then they've got to figure a way to screw it up by inputting their damn crap.
But it's going in the direction of more of the same, or a kind of a banal direction, as opposed to, man, like, I want Fox Kids to get involved. I want the Fox Network people. You know what I mean? Like, I think crazy. This is the one character that you can't get too crazy with. Look at those clips when he was doing the local weather reports and stuff. Like, there's so much you can do with this guy, and they're just taking it in the most predictable direction. Oh, he's got a weakness, so we're probably not going to learn it before the Rumble. But and I'm just calling it right now. It's going to be the mask. If you can knock the mask off, it's going to be like Jason. Not that was Jason's weakness, but that's in the Friday the 13th video game. That's the step to killing Jason. You got to knock the mask off before you can kill Jason. I have a feeling it's going to be the mask.
Corporate culture does not sustain creativity, right? And ever since WWE, if you go back to 2001, whenever they went public, they became a corporation that is focused on corporate culture and sustaining investor profits. And ever since 2001, not only is there a drop in ratings, right? Of course, the high mark of the Attitude Era, but also creatively, every 5 to 10 years, you've seen a drop off in that because they're focused on this different kind of being and not being a creative freelance, whatever it is that WWE was and wrestling used to be. It's not going to be by the books and by the corporate culture. And we got standards and practices, right?
What made this character successful is it was out of the box. They're at times doing everything possible to put it back in a box.
Yeah. And speaking of boxes, tonight, Sonya Deville had one for Otis. Oh, what was in that box? Before we could find that out, we had Elias out, and he was singing about the Royal Rumble. But did anyone else notice that when he was talking about what's been going on lately, here he was on SmackDown, and he's recapping Raw. Like, every storyline on Raw is what he was singing about tonight.
I got nothing for it. This is the same crap. Again, taking a talent that should be doing a hell of a lot more than what they're using them for, and they're using them to get other talents over.
Yeah. Do you guys remember whenever SmackDown got this big money deal from Fox, and we're like, all right, SmackDown's going to be the A show. That's going to be the premiere show. Everybody's going to be talking about it. And it feels like now Raw is still the show that they put the more effort into, and SmackDown kind of gets seconds.
Still think SmackDown physically looks better. The way it's shot, the graphics, to my opinion, it looks so much better than Raw.
The Fox money looks better part of
it
that.
Does. Yeah.
You know what my prediction for the content, though, is I think Heyman doesn't care about being let go, but I think Bruce Pritchard does on SmackDown. So I think Bruce, if I just had to completely guess based on personalities, I think Heyman is probably fighting a little harder for what he wants versus Bruce's personality, as from what we know of it publicly.
Or like, this is kind of like, even this Elias segment you're talking about here feels a little bit like a Yes Men segment. Like, look, Elias was out there telling jokes and singing songs last week. Bruce Pritchard brings it back up again this week because Vince liked it before, right?
You know what I would do is Matt Hardy right now has nothing going on. He's up for renewal. I would take a guy like Matt Hardy and be like, you know what, dude? You're going to be the creative producer. We're going to give you Elias. We're going to give you Bray. And I'll pick one other act and be like, take in your twisted mind, come up with some segment ideas, some storyline ideas. Like, let's not just do the cookie cutter. I think Matt Hardy is probably the most underutilized resource that WWE has right now, creatively.
Yeah, but he's gone, man. He's free the elite. He's on his way out the door.
This is how they should keep him back. Give him some creative rope, you know?
Yeah.
Something. But it's just tough, man. And then, so we got this match, Alexa Bliss versus Mandi Rose. So Alexa's out there with Sonya Deville. Mandy's out there with, or Alexa's out there with Nikki Cross. Mandi out there with Sonya Deville. Decent match, but once it really gets going, then we get Otis coming in with the cake. So it was a cake to apologize. And we actually had the line tonight. I have to read this verbatim because this was said on TV. I know I hurt your feelings when I let Dolph Ziggler step on your mom's fruitcake. She gave him an apology cake. So Otis came in and did the distraction during the match that allowed Rose to take advantage and roll up Bliss for the pin and the win.
And
Otis ate the cake.
I had a big issue with the one part of this, Matt, and tell me if you agree or disagree. And that is the fact that they made Mandy Rose look good by sacrificing Alexa Bliss. She looked like an idiot out there. What? Somebody's coming up the ramp? What? And she doesn't even care about Otis. Why would she be distracted by that?
Good point. But the thesis of what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
The nuts and bolts of what you're saying, which is so-and-so had to look bad to make Mandy look good. I'm in favor of that, actually. I just think they could be doing a lot more with Mandy, and I'm happy to see them doing something with her at the moment, right? Alexa Bliss has gotten everything, in my opinion. She's a multi-time world champion. She's had everything, man, as far as creativity goes. The creative team getting her over. Mandy I'd like to see them groom her and get her ready finally. I think she's a main event talent.
Give her a win then. I mean, I'm not opposed to them using Alexa Bliss to put over Mandy. My bigger point is they made Alexa Bliss, who is typically the smart, cunning one of the locker room, right? Put Nikki Cross out there, make her look foolish. But you know what I mean? She's like, yeah.
Tammy's saying a lot of distraction finishes on a lot of shows this week. It's lazy. It is kind of weird. I mean,
yeah, she's right.
Mandy, I think, should get a push. I think Heavy Machinery is super over with the crowd. They should be doing more. It's I don't know. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of cool that Otis and Mandy are in this storyline together. I mean, and it doesn't need a title for either of them to get them over. Like, I like that.
Backstage, they all love it.
Yeah.
They think this is the best storyline ever. I'm talking better than the wedding. How about that?
JC Harrington saying, I like how SmackDown is giving more of the girls a chance as opposed to Raw, where the whole division is just revolving around the same people it's been revolving around for a while. I'll say this, man. It goes NXT, then it goes SmackDown, then it goes Raw, then Impact, and then AEW, sort of in last place for women's divisions.
What's the other show? NWA, what's it called?
NWA
Power.
Yeah.
Theirs is pretty rough, too.
Yeah.
They do in a 2-hour show. You got 2 women's segments, 2 different storylines going on. That's pretty good.
Krillin 876. I'm saying this because it's a super chat. And dude, this is just out of nowhere. WWE needs to bring back Iron Sheik as a manager of an Iranian guy since there's heat with Iran right now. It would get over like 80s with Hogan. Now, Krillin, don't give them any ideas because it won't be with an Iranian guy. They'll have Mustafa Ali or Jinder Mahal pairing with the Iron Sheik, and it will be a nightmare.
Yes, what you just said. Yes.
Vince ain't that nuanced. We've seen that time and time again.
That's right.
So after Mandy Rose got that win, Otis ate that cake on the ramp, making a mess. He hit it with his hands. Jesus Christ. Lacey Evans versus Sasha Banks was supposed to happen tonight, and I was thinking before this match.
What?
And we talked about it before. This is a pay-per-view match.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
So of course it didn't happen. Lacey went out there, and then Bayley was backstage saying Sasha's in LA. Lacey cutting this promo, really leaning on the military. I thought the heaviest they've done tonight, even with Bayley calling her a jarhead. Lacey talking about being the heartland. There was a USA chant, which probably really confused the Fox executives.
Why?
And because they're not, because it's on Fox, not the USA network. That's the joke. Get it? People were chanting USA. Yeah. I'll make that joke every time.
Sorry, folks.
I made that joke when they chanted USA on AEW. They should be chanting TNT.
Never gets old, Glenn. Never gets old.
Matt, we're old enough. We were alive when that started. I don't know if you remember as a kid. Do you know what the origin of the USA chant was?
For me as a little boy, I remember watching it at Hacksaw Jim Duggan
in sports, though. Think before that, like the sporting event that started the USA chants. The first
1972 hockey team?
The 1980 hockey team. The Miracle on Ice.
That's what I meant. Miracle on Ice. Sorry, wrong.
Miracle on Ice.
Why did I say 72? What happened in 72?
72, I
Olympics.
think good showing. Well, Miracle on Ice was at the Olympics in '80, but it's so weird. This is where an age thing. Michael, does the Miracle on Ice mean anything to you?
Yes, I know about it. I know what it is. I know the importance of it in that era. But personally, it does not, like, I have no real connection to it other than being an American, right?
I grew up with a painting of the Miracle on Ice, and I kept that. Like, we've got that hanging in our house in the entryway, painting of the Miracle on Ice victory when USA went over Russia, which was the biggest deal you can imagine. But that was the first big sporting event where a USA chant was televised.
And we're not even a hockey country.
Right.
Yeah, not at all.
But that was very different.
Brett Baldus, man, save a little. You know, we do this show 3 times a week.
Brett. Thanks, Brett.
Vince is wasting Elias. He has so much Triple H Randy Savage in him in the ring and great on the mic. I know we're past this part already, but yeah, I mean, Elias they have no clue what they want to do with him.
He's money. He is money. I hated his character at first. I hated the guitar stuff. But he proved me wrong. And he's got the size of it too. That's the whole thing. He's got the size of a main event talent. Mm-hmm. Triple H is a good comparison, actually, as far as physically speaking goes. He's tall, he's pretty jacked, especially compared to this roster, and he can talk. And he's getting no offense, a corny gimmick over.
He's got a very marketable look too. The size, not only that, but the look he has is not a little bit hipsterish, a little bit free spiritish, but like that's a certain kind of look that's different than Morrison and Ziggler and whoever else we talked about earlier.
And he's one of the rare ones, man. That gimmick sucked in NXT.
Yeah.
And on the main roster, it just took off.
It says a lot about him. So imagine what you can do with him and do something bigger with him. Not as Shane McMahon's lackey either. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
He never needed to be Shane's lackey. It should have been the other way around. Shane should have been his manager, and it should have been all about him getting legit wins on people. But whatever.
So Lacey with this promo tonight, man, I'm just in awe of how successfully they've turned her babyface.
Dude, it's the ultimate babyface though.
Yeah. Well, why was she out there talking about nasties and looking like she just came from the Kentucky Derby for 6 months?
Never came. When did it ever come up about fighting for our country? It never did. And now it has.
Not front and center. I think it was like little asides that were mentioned. But,
the announce team has like said it here and there,
okay, but she's not going to stop in the middle of the match and say, "Wait, what'd you say about me? Wait, what? Right. Do me a favor, say it in the house mic so the fans here can say, okay, what'd you say?" Yeah.
Okay, so she ran backstage and Bailey. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, Bailey beat her down, told her to put on her mom jeans and go home. Bailey walked off and then Lacey attacked her.
That was good, by the way.
Yeah, I liked.
But something tells me Bailey rocks mom jeans, though, for the record.
Well, she's
that was a really good dig. I thought it was hilarious.
Well, Matt, I'm going to say let's take credit for this that we were proven right. Bailey without Sasha came across much better as a heel because she didn't have Miss Swagger herself there to upstage her with coolness.
Yes,
I
agree.
And they gave her some decent one-liners. I mean, just the passive-aggressive. I mean, she basically insulted all Marines. She said, let me get this through your jarhead, right? And, like, all Marines are idiots. And I think that's a subtle way to be, like, that's what a heel would do, is not just be like, you're dumb, right?
Oh, and in fact, let me make the comparison. Last night I was watching a lot of Happy Days, because that's what we do in this house. And we were watching early seasons. Do you know Fonzie originally was not supposed to be the super cool character that, like, Richie looked up to and, like, told him about the world? Do you know who it was supposed to be?
No.
It was supposed to be Potsy. Potsy was supposed to be the cool guy. Huh. So you get Potsy next to Fonzie. Potsy don't look so cool. That's the problem. Bailey suffers from the same thing. Bailey and Sasha. Sasha is Fonzie. Bailey on her own is a lot better than when you.
I'm thinking of Ralph Malph. Potsy was he was good looking. He seemed to have everything together, but then by comparison to the Fonz, nothing.
And that's the thing with Bailey. It's not saying there's a down thing, but Bailey just does so much better on her own tonight. That's kind of what it reminded me of. It's like you get her on her own, you give her some good lines, you don't convolute it. But Sasha is the fun. Sasha doesn't need to say anything. Sasha could probably snap her fingers and turn on a jukebox.
It's true.
She's that cool.
She punched it. He used to punch it.
He would hand it with the side of his hand,
Hammer fist.
Yeah.
And then we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Braun Strowman. I am angry at this tonight, at this match, on so many levels, where we had Shinsuke and Braun Braun overcoming the odds, right? We had Cesaro out there, Sami Zayn out there, all of these guys bagging on Braun, and then, bloodied, bruised, Braun picks up the win, and this wasn't for the title, and Corey Graves pulling this shit at the end. Braun's one step closer to a shot at the Intercontinental Championship, not making it sound like it was going to happen, but, what does this guy have to do?
Right.
Personally, lift up Vince McMahon's limo and change a tire with his bare hands at the same time. Why can't they just call the shot and say, at the Royal Rumble? I'm just frustrated at this point because Braun looked like a beast tonight getting that win.
He did. Yeah. That's the way he should look.
Holding up the belt. We talk about this guy possibly being IC title holder. He was holding it at the end, and he looked like an IC champion. And I just
he
can't
looks
believe
better than that. I still think this is beneath him.
100% agree. But while the main event is tied up, I could see them doing this with him for a little while.
This doesn't even feel like they've thrown him a bone. A bone would have been after they did him like they did him versus Brock Lesnar. Then immediately, like a month later, they would have given him this.
Sure.
Or one-man tag team champions or something like that. I don't know. I'm still pissed off about that. He should be the headline act here. I'm just being dead serious.
I think Bray doesn't need that championship. I would have rather.
God, no, he's a gimmick. Why would you put a gimmick on a gimmick? It doesn't make sense.
Oh, that's good.
It doesn't make sense.
Put a gimmick on a gimmick.
And Braun could be like Brock, but Brock who's there all the time.
Yes, exactly. And then by now, Braun would have been at a place where he could have started getting other guys crazy over. Yeah. Whoever that David is, that eventually would have slayed Goliath by now because they would have put the title on him well over a year and a half ago when they should have pulled the trigger. And so now he'd be in that gear of getting others guys over. Bad News Brown writes, WWE needs to trade Braun to AEW for Kenny Omega to save both of their careers.
Do you guys know if Kenny Omega was in WWE right now, they would literally strap him down with a video game character. Not just a video game-like character, they would make him Ryu from Street Fighter.
I agree. I agree they would not do him justice. And you can say what you want to say about him on AEW, and I'm one of them. I don't think they're being way too unselfish. The Bucks booking of themselves and Omega, those two acts should not be losing ever.
It's the one thing that I've noticed the big difference with WWE with the guy like we talk about Bray Wyatt versus watching Wrestle Kingdom 14 last weekend, and you get guys that have big pomp and circumstance for their entrances, guys like Evil, and they come out and they look badass. When they get in the ring, they're still wrestlers, and WWE still feels this need to make everybody characters, right? It can't just be Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. The Fiend has to be an immovable object. He's got to be a force of nature, and sometimes these guys should just be wrestlers, and they can still have that gimmick outside of the ring, but let them be wrestlers inside the ring, right?
I wish they did do more for their entrances. I'll agree to that part.
Sure.
Definitely.
So we had a backstage promo from Sheamus tonight, borrowing Aleister Black's closet, talking about Shorty G, and talking about size does matter. Since he's returned, he's going to embrace chaos. Who was it in NXT? Who had the chaos gimmick?
That's creative, 101 buzzword.
Yeah.
It really is. I feel bad for him. They had to say it.
Let me pull out my writing handbook tonight. What word what synonyms? Where's my thesaurus? Somebody give me my.
There's I'm surprised someone hasn't written an article. Maybe they have. There's 10 archetypes for characters in the WWE. One, he embraces chaos. He loves to have a good time. He's here to make a statement, send a message.
Yes.
When I was there, it was to make an impact. I think I got stuck stuttering that word actually, but impact.
That foreshadowing. So we had this main event segment. Roman Reigns came out, cut a promo, talked about 2019, and Roman did have, even with his illness, thank God, he's in remission from that. I think creatively, in terms of WWE programming, he ended 2019 in a better place than he started it. Obviously overcoming the illness, but really being embraced by the fans.
Yes.
I think it was a good wake up call for a lot of us that can get so frustrated with how a character or performer is booked. Yeah. It's easy to very easy to separate the performer from the character that they're portraying, from the human. So I liked that. But then he said, he's been outnumbered, jumped, and even embarrassed by King Baron Corbin and his crew, but he's always had backup. He didn't need the help of his friends. This time he needed the help of his family. I was just thinking about the Cody and Dustin promo during this entire time. But he talked about his family coming back to help him in a big way last week. 2020 is going to be his year. Then we had the Usos come out. I was annoyed. The Usos didn't even get to finish the goddamn Uso penitentiary line before Corbin's music hit. I felt like this was not the dominant. I mean, wouldn't you rather have had them just like have a classic with the Revival tonight and have them win clean?
Yeah. I'd also like to have heard more of them on the mic.
Yeah.
Usos are great on the mic.
Yeah. They're better than Roman, and Roman's not bad, but
they're really good. They get the crowd into it.
Do you guys feel like that the crowd is starting to turn away from Roman again? I mean, I felt like Roman has had all this momentum since coming back from being out. And then I felt like tonight, and I've seen it on Twitter, and it seems like maybe they're getting tired of the storyline. But when Roman's talking about going to win the Royal Rumble, fans, I don't think are receptive to it.
Here's the thing. Always remember, I don't necessarily think you're saying this, but just food for thought, guys. What you'll get on Twitter is not, especially right away.
Sure.
Is not generally the initial reaction to what's happening in these arenas live. I would say Twitter will come first, and then about 3 months after Twitter coming and burying something, then live it'll start to go that direction and not be over either. Twitter's like the first step.
Yeah.
I think it's not the problem before where they book him as the inevitable champion, right? This doesn't make Roman look strong. It's
not. And Glenn, to be clear, I didn't hear them really turning on him tonight. Did I miss it?
I'm not turning on Roman, but man, I'm
not you. Did I miss the fans turning on him live?
I didn't hear that live, but I do feel like people are not enamored with this storyline. At least we didn't get dog food tonight, so I felt like maybe that's.
I always felt that was more Baron Corbin's end. When people buried the dog food stuff, I always felt like that wasn't on Roman; that it was on Vince and Baron Corbin more.
But I don't think there's burial happening. I think it's like the fans aren't as excited about it. Like there was a pop. There used to be a pop when Roman came out every time.
But everyone else was annoyed by the fact they kept going back to the dog food.
Matt, though, to what you always say, don't get any on you. When you're literally the recipient of the dog food, how are you not culpable in that situation?
You are, but you're like C versus in the A is Vince, B is Baron, and C would then be Roman. In that formula of getting some on you. Tammy says it's hard to get into something when you know what's coming. Yes, Tammy, I agree with that, but also I would argue what's cool about wrestling, sometimes when they do a good job of that predictability, again, i.e. Hulk Hogan hulking up every damn match, didn't matter who the hell it was, we still paid our hard-earned money to watch it every damn week because we knew it was predictable. It was going to happen, and we liked that predictability. So predictability in wrestling can be good when done right. This crap, not done right. So, yeah, I see what you're saying in this particular context, Tammy.
I think there's also an element of production that makes it feel like to us as fans that it is the same old, like Michael Cole gets he's on commentary. I could really be excited if we got to see the revival, or he was talking about the New Day versus the Usos and another great feud. And I'm like, don't talk about feuds like they're this program thing you have on a whiteboard somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's got to feel organic. Guys hate each other. That's a real raw emotion, not something you're excited to see as an announcer for a company, right?
Well, it's a raw emotion. It's not a SmackDown emotion. And I think that's the problem.
That's the problem. Elias can sing about it, right? But
so this match was supposed to be the Usos versus Dolph Ziggler and King Baron Corbin. But yeah, Roman ended up getting involved. He came out. Dash and Dawson came out. Roman, God, I'm trying to remember the sequence of events here. So I believe Roman speared Corbin. They started beating up the Usos. Robert Roode came out and got the best of him. Sounded like when they dropped him, they didn't show the replay of that, but it looked like Roman landed on his head. There was like a loud thud. It was not. Maybe that's why they didn't reshow the moment. It looked ugly at the time, but just this chaos. I mean, they put Roman through the announce table. So Roman caused the DQ, so Corbin and Ziggler won. But yeah, and this was Robert Roode, Corbin, and Ziggler talking trash as we went off the air, talking trash at Roman Reigns and the Usos. So not the best return for the Usos, man.
Okay, no, but one more time, I'm going to point it out again. I hope there's fans at home keeping score on this. Roman Reigns got other talent over yet again. He continues to do it.
Bobby Roode looked great because of Roman taking the fall for him.
For real, yeah. Most top guys, John Cena, would have gotten that snuffed out by 1 p.m. And P.S. we need to be at the arenas at 12 o'clock generally. So by 1 p.m. that would have been shit canned.
Now, how does that go exactly? Do you go to, Vince and the writers? You're like, I just don't think that my character.
I don't know, because I would never be that arrogant to do that shit. I would never be that arrogant, because this is freaking cops versus robbers, bad guy versus good guy. It ain't real.
Yeah. Can we just point out that last Friday on this podcast,
I would never pull that crap. You
were talking about Big Show last Friday on this podcast, and then 3 days later he shows up on Raw. So is John Cena going to be on Raw Monday night? Is that what we're expecting?
Oh God, I apologize, fans. I apologize if this happens. Oh God.
And now I can't watch Big Show the same way, Matt.
That's
Not
true.
that I ever was really into Big Show, but still, now I don't like the guy now.
It's a shame, man. It's a shame. We could have made a lot of money.
We're building a feud right here for like next year's Mania. Matt Morgan, Big Show.
Don't nobody want to see two arthritic old giants.
And he's not that old. Big Show's one of those. We did this a lot. We did this when we were watching Happy Days last night. We do this when we're watching wrestling. It's always, guess how old this person is. And then my wife and I try and figure it out. And with Big Show, it was like 55, 56. It was like, no, Big Show was like 3 years. 40. I mean, he's like 47 maybe.
Yeah, he's only a few years older than me. Yeah.
Yeah, but dude, you're aging a lot better than he has.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho. I mean, keep in mind, Chris Jericho, 49, face of AEW, main eventing Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah,
dude, Wrestle Kingdom was awesome. By the way, I did watch it finally. I actually saw it today.
Oh my gosh, it was a great show.
Tomorrow's NXT Takeover Blackpool. We're not doing a podcast after that.
No, please no.
I'm curious to see the women's match. I don't even know the full card, but
I do want to see that women's match too. I'll admit that. Yeah, I do.
But this is the thing, this is a good pivot to talking about the ratings this week. AEW crushed NXT.
Crushed them.
And I think a big part of the reason why is because NXT is trying to build, like this past Wednesday, first, NXT took 2 weeks off after Rhea Ripley. They had the pre-taped episode on Christmas, and then they had the year-end awards. But they're trying to build NXT TakeOver UK Blackpool 2. They're trying to build Worlds Collide, which is going to happen Royal Rumble weekend. And they're trying to build TakeOver Portland happening February 15th. So much is going on right now in NXT, and I didn't feel like there was clear direction on Wednesday night.
Oh, and that tag team tournament. I told you, nobody cares about that damn the tag team tournament.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. So the actual ratings was we had AEW pulling in 947,000 viewers with a 0.36 in the ratings, whereas NXT had 721,000 viewers, which is not the bottom number they've had. It's not the worst. AEW did drop a little bit from last week, but the thing that surprised the hell out of me was last week AEW was basically unopposed with that NXT award show. Right. And they only lost 20,000 viewers from last week. So fans tuned in last week and they stayed tuned in, where I think, Glenn, you're right. Fans tuned out for those 2 weeks where it was a pre-tape and the award show, and they've not brought all those fans back into the fold. Also, WWE product was not great for Raw this week. So if you use WWE to promote NXT every week,
it is usually how it works.
Yeah, it's lackluster. Yeah.
I want to thank Brett Baldus with another super chat saying,
Brett.
Matt Morgan, one of my favorite wrestlers in TNA. You had the look, hated the stuttering gimmick, wish you were still wrestling.
Thanks, buddy.
And Baby Maharaja with a super chat. WWE should push Rude. Corbin is not interesting.
I mean, you'll never. I do dig what Corbin's doing. He proved me very wrong. I used to bury him all the time because I hated the outfit. I could not get past it. I was one of them. I admit it. But he's proven me wrong immensely. He could talk. He's 6'8". He looks the part, you know what I mean? And he's doing a great job and doesn't care about what the fans say. A lot of heels would have punked out by now by getting what quote unquote is called that X-Pac heat, that go away heat, that turn the channel heat that people like to call it, right? He loves it and eats it, and he's used it, and he's become a top heel because of it. A lot of heels couldn't do that in today's day and age. A lot of heels wrestlers rather, are too thin-skinned to have been able to do what he did. And go back to what you said about Robert Roode. I agree, though. All that said about Baron Corbin, I agree, because Bobby Roode, to me, and I know you guys don't think so because of how he's been booked with WWE, but to me, Bobby Roode has always be and will always be a potential world champion. Heel, though.
100%. I mean, he was the NXT champion. He was a great one. I agree with 100%. And he's got, you talk about his size and physique. People say he reminds you of Arn Anderson, but he reminds me of like a modern day because he's stout, but he is shredded. He's got the look and he can go in the ring. And people are like, he's boring. Well, that's part of what he's doing is those holds to flex and show off because that's part of his gimmick. It's not boring, right? Anyway.
Well, I think the reason
he's a very good worker. Watch him bump and feed, folks. He's freaking, and he gets everybody he works with over. Everybody.
I like Baron Corbin a lot. I think he's doing a very good job with lackluster material. That being said, I think Robert Roode could do an even better job, but Corbin's got less miles on him and more of a future, and that's why they're giving him this investment. I don't think they would do it with Bobby Roode because the shelf life is going to be shorter.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I still wish they give Bobby that one chance, though.
Oh, I know. What else do we got in terms of news stories?
That was a major thing I had written down. We had the rating war this
major weight ratings win by NXT. Yeah. I mean, by AEW over NXT, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
major?
Pretty major, but you know, I think NXT is still doing okay for themselves over there. But AEW is just looking great on their own. Is what the point for me is. Not that they beat NXT; it's that they're hovering at 1 million, and they haven't been this good since. Back in October, November.
And I saw a lot of fans online that wanted to talk smack about it when Raj first posted it. I saw on Twitter, you see both parties. It's like literally watching, Republicans and Democrats go back and forth. It's hilarious. You see the NXT people, give their reasons why. And then you see the AEW fans give their reasons why. It's cool to watch, honestly, because I didn't have, we had it when we were little kids, but when I was wrestling, we didn't have competing shows like that to this degree. But really quick, what I was going to say though is some of them would say, a lot of them would say, well, it only got a high rating because it ended with Moxley and Jericho. It started off not as strong as NXT did. I want fans to remember that NXT started off much hotter, much stronger.
But it's simple, right? I mean, there's an element of it that is last week they teased that segment for the end of the show. So fans tuned in and they waited around to see the segment they wanted to see, right? It's like how Raw went up when they teased the wedding because for whatever reason people wanted to see that.
People were watching, yeah.
And NXT didn't have that hook, and those hooks matter.
Yeah. And again, that tag team tournament is not a big enough hook.
It's not a hook, right?
So not to put my own joke over, but there's a follow-up to this. So I tweeted this last night with the meme about the, gonna tell my kids this is Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho while I was watching Happy Days, the screenshot of Chachi and Fonzie. And one of our awesome fans, Jackson Callens, one-upped me big time with this masterpiece. Gonna tell my kids this is Glenn Rubenstein and Matt Morgan. From the WINC podcast.
I know these fans. I see these fans on my Twitter all the time. We have really good fans.
Yeah, so Jackson, you're awesome.
Yeah, Jackson.
Love seeing that. Cool, guys. Well, I think that's it for tonight. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll be back here Monday to talk about Raw. He's at BP Matt Morgan. He's at The Real Wiseman. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein, and we'll catch you back here next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Take care.